to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you giving up your time on this lovely sunny morning. So just to introduce us, we are Cundall. We are a global firm of advisors and consultants in the built environment, all forms of engineering, sustainability consulting, and lots of other things. We've invited you to listen to a webinar and to watch a webinar this morning on a well-designed office and have a 3D walkthrough of our office. But before we start that, I'd like to do some introductions so that you know who's going to be talking to you this morning. I'll pass you over to Kavita. Do you want to introduce yourself, Kavita?
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Kavita Kumari. I'm an associate in the sustainability team in London. I supported the team in Birmingham to deliver their first WELL certification in the space and supporting them to the next stages in terms of this certification and implementation. Thank you. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you. So I'm a principal air quality consultant in the Birmingham office. Been working in the field for about 15 years. Over to you, Rob.
And I'm Rob Van Zyl. I'm the managing partner of the Birmingham office. I'm delighted to be participating in this talk.
And I'm Andy Parkin. I'm a partner also in the Birmingham office. I lead the acoustics team, but also have a leadership role for all the specialists across the practice. And it was my poison chalice of a job to be project manager and client for the office refit when we did this. So just to give you a bit of an introduction as to what we're going to be talking about. The building that we are in at the moment, or the building that we occupy, we've been in since 2014. It's 15 Colmore Row in the centre of Birmingham, in the central business district. It's a fantastic location. When we looked around the office, it was pretty bland. It was pretty vanilla. But like all things, we could see the potential. It had great opportunity for natural light. It had 4-metre floor to soffit heights. Something really interesting could happen. And so we moved into it in 2014, into about 7,000 square foot, into a single floor, and we achieved BREEAM Very Good, SCAR Gold, and it won a number of awards, BCO and various others. But we then saw a period of rapid growth, and in 2017 we took on another floor, effectively doubling the space, and we applied the WELL building standard to the new fit out. The WELL building standard was relatively new at the time, but it was first piloted by our London office at 1 Carter Lane, who were the first in Europe to be WELL certified. We saw the benefits of that, and we, as a practice, we've implemented it in a number of our business in our offices. So we went for WELL Gold, and the reason we went for WELL Gold is that it suited what we wanted to do. We were 3 points off WELL Platinum, and there's a good reason for that, really. I'm going to start sharing a screen so you can see just the, we call this a doll's house view, but just so you can get an idea for what it is that we're going to be talking about. With 3 points off Platinum, the reason we didn't go for Platinum was that the extra points that we'd have needed to go for would not actually have added any value to our business or our staff or our stakeholders. And it would also cost quite a lot of money. So in terms of cost benefit analysis, it just didn't stack up. So we were happy to stick with WELL Gold. The designer for our office fit out was Studio Ben Allen from Birmingham, the same architect that did Carter Lane. Cundall did all the engineering. The QS duties were by RLB, our neighbours in the building. Hortons are our landlords, and the contractor were Parkin. Now, we designed the office with health and well-being in mind, and that's right at the heart of the WELL building standard. And we saw very quickly, really, the payback on that in terms of staff retention and the ability to attract good staff and low absenteeism. But we've all been out of the office pretty much for the last 15 months. There's been a skeleton crew coming in and coming and going, but really we're not fully in the office yet, but we are looking forward to the time when we do return. And although we've been talking about health and well-being for years, really now more than ever, we're focused on health, because well-being is all very well, but unless it's underpinned by health and safety, then really the office isn't an attractive proposition. Now, the good thing is that the Well Building Standard is based on health research. It's less focused on the building, it's focused on the people that occupy the building, and then it builds from the inside out, which is the right way to do it. You may have seen we published a blog back in April 2020 on how the Well Building Standard provides favourable conditions for being a COVID-safe environment. And that's a critical part of encouraging people back to the office safely as well. And so we're going to do a walkthrough of our office, which is in Birmingham City Centre, as we've said. We're going to explore around. We're going to talk about the design considerations, and we're going to look at what the fundamental health benefits are to the design. Because really what this webinar is all about is what health benefits do offices provide to our staff and our visitors in this post-pandemic world. And there's a million and one webinars, aren't there, about the post-COVID office. And a lot of them are very conceptual because people don't really have a post-COVID office yet. But I'd like to think that what we can talk about this morning is an office which does help to be COVID safe. And so we need to look at the office as a safe space. It has to be a healthy space. It has to not only be healthy to the people, but promote their health as well. We've all been sat at home for the last 15 months or so, and we've got used to home comforts. We may have been used to looking out on the garden and seeing the trees and seeing the animals and being able to have that sense of connection with nature. How do we get that sense of home in our office? The office, the fundamental role of the office will change. It's no longer just a place to go to work. You can do that anywhere. We've proven that. The office is a place to go and collaborate and to meet with people. And so we're going to end up with these hybrid arrangements, aren't we, of where people will share their time between the office and alternative locations. And the Well Building Standard really is all about this maintenance of a healthy office. And the only way you can do that is by having a continuum. And so it's underpinned by policies. And we have our COVID policies, don't we? We have HR policies, we have inclusion policies, we have diversity policies. All these things are underpinning the way that we operate our businesses. But then the physical office as well, the element of that is the architectural design. And so we've got the finishes to the office, we've got the aesthetics, the function of it, the form, the beauty. And then there's how it performs. There's the air, there's the light, the heat, the sound, the energy, the health impact. So the occupation and the success of an office is based on policies, design, and performance. And so the Well Building Standard is very much a living rating, and it has to be maintained as well as just achieved. It's not a tick box exercise. It's something that has to be constant and living. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass you on to Kavita, who's going to talk us through the kitchen area.
Great, thank you, Andy. Just to add also, although the 3 well features were not pursued in the final implementation, these were included in the Well Design Review submission to the IWBI, and therefore the Birmingham Cundall office has also achieved a Well Platinum pre-certificate for the design. Moving on to the kitchen. So in the kitchen and collaborative breakout areas, the focus is generally around 4 key elements: high contact surfaces, cleaning products, cleaning frequency, and nourishment. The well features for these have been defined based on the impacts to our respiratory, integumentary, endocrine, nervous, immune, and digestive bodily systems. High contact surfaces, as you know, present increased risk for contamination, especially the transfer of germs and viruses between people, particularly in high transit areas. Unfortunately, COVID-19 is unlikely to be the last of its kind. So what we can do to protect our spaces now and future-proof them for future viral outbreaks is important. Generally, the main high contact surfaces in this space include the kitchen countertops, cupboard door handles, kitchen taps, coffee machine buttons, breakout space, table surfaces, among other items. These have been made using products with known antibacterial properties, for example, copper and brass, and products which are easily cleanable, have low absorption rates, and mechanically polished rather than chemically sealed, as we see here. These surfaces are also abrasion resistant, non-porous, non-leaching, and meets testing requirements for antimicrobial activity as set down by the US Environmental Protection Agency. These surfaces have also been finished to maintain smooth wells and joints and free of crevices. Again, moving across to the wash hand basin sinks, these have been designed to provide sufficient room for washing hands without touching the sink sides to prevent possible recontamination. Both the column of water and wash hand sink sizes are appropriate to prevent contaminants spreading outside the sink or splashbacks. In addition, using paper towels to dry hands is more effective in removing bacteria than using air dryers. Well, describe this simply as the art of rubbing your hands together removes any residual dirt and contaminants. And then what I'd like to say as well is, together with more regular cleaning and maintenance protocols, these practices are known to help actively decelerate microorganisms and pathogen activity and growth on these surfaces over an extended period of time. As we come out of this pandemic, the cleaning protocols will be reviewed on return to work. The frequency of regular cleaning will be increased from normal operating procedures and be clearly visible to reassure staff. The cleaning products we use in this space are eco-friendly and low in chemicals, and sometimes this can be as simple as ordinary soap and warm water. There are a lot of cleaning products emerging in the marketplace that could be potential solutions, but make sure you're checking the label. These might contain dangerous chemicals and will have adverse impact on the indoor air quality, which Jenny will tell you a little bit more about later on. We would suggest it is best to clean more often and more intense than relying solely on cleaning products to do the work. The key thing here is to get some advice and don't jump into making significant spend on the products I've mentioned above, because without a level of certainty that this investment is going to be valuable. In summary, enhanced cleaning and disinfection protocols must be paired with ventilation protocols. This will help reduce exposure to toxic chemicals in an indoor environment, especially from cleaning products and sanitizing products, and also will help reduce airborne transmission such as COVID. In terms of nourishment, we normally provide a variety of fruit and healthier food and low sugar beverage options. This is normally operational during normal operation situations. With that, I thank you for your attention. I'll hand you back now to Andy. Thank you.
Okay, so we move on through the eating area, through the meeting area, which is what we call our town hall space, and we move on to the water wall area. Now, we mentioned earlier about the sense of home, and this is key as well. I mean, the area that we're looking at now, it's beneficial to our cardiovascular, our immune, and our nervous systems, and it's really about biophilia. Biophilia is the innate communication, the innate link that humans have with the natural environment and plant life. And in this area here, you can see there's a lot of planting. Planting itself is great. It not only gives you that sense of connection with nature, but they scrub the chemicals from the air. They give off oxygen. They absorb carbon dioxide. They're a great thing to have in our offices. But we have this water wall as well. And essentially all this water wall is doing is just recirculating water from a reservoir down there. But the benefits that it has are probably quite subtle, really, but they're quite distinct as well. It is a beautiful thing. And certainly when you're in this space, you can see the water coming down, you can hear the water as well. And it's a very soothing environment to be in. But also that the water itself is a heat sink. When you go near it, you can feel the coolth coming off it. So that's a benefit. It helps cool the area down. It also provides some humidification. We know that because the water levels go down, so the water is evaporating to a certain extent. And there's a lot of planting in this area. And there are some things you can see and some things you can hear. Obviously, you can't hear them right now, but in the ceiling area here, there are a number of speakers. And in addition to the sound of the water wall, there's also birdsong that we have playing. Now, we've done a number of experiments with what we call soundscaping, and we tried different soundscapes. We tried jungle sounds, we tried thunder and rain. But the most pleasing soundscape for our staff was birdsong, and also native birdsong. And again, it comes down to what our natural expectation is. If you are in a place where you experience plant life and you experience moving water, your brain is also looking to experience the auditory stimulus that it would get as well. And so it is by matching these sensory stimuli with a complementary soundscape, it's something which comes together to form something very pleasing. It's interesting to note that if you can hear water but not see it, or if you can see water and not hear it, then your brain isn't convinced, and it may start to send signals to other parts of your body which may not be too pleasant. So we have a diversity of planting in the office, and we'll see that as we go all around. But one of the difficult things about planting is to find the right type of plants. As you can see here, these are right in the center of the office where there's the least access to natural light. So the easiest way would be to put some really energy hungry grow lights there, but we didn't want to do that because the energy burden would have been so great. So it's about finding the right balance between plants that will survive and give the right benefits that we need. Interestingly, this water wall is on casters. These are all movable. These are all movable, so we can flex this space if needed. And as we move back just to the behind the reception area here, again, we've got this idea of this oasis still. One of the features of well is that of beauty. And here, these are the riser doors. Now, to the M&E engineers, they may think that riser cupboards are a thing of beauty, but they're wrong. They're not. And so here we have that this is a fully accessible riser cupboard, but these materials here it's a sample board of different materials used in the fit out, but also they provide sound absorption along with these rafts here and along with the rafts at high level as well. So everything is functional. Everything serves a purpose. And we now move into the main body of the office. This is the fourth floor that was subject to the first fit out back in 2014. We're going to focus more on the areas upstairs. But for those of you who've been to our office or seen photos, you'll have probably heard of the staircase. We're very proud of this staircase. It was in the top 10 staircases of 2019 in Design magazine, which was amazing when you looked at some of the other international ones that it was there along with. But in terms of the health benefits of the staircase, it these are probably a bit more obvious really, cardiovascular systems, skeletal systems, reproductive, nervous, muscular systems. We're promoting an active office, and that's really important. The stair itself is it supports biophilia, and it supports biomimicry as well. It mimics a natural form. It takes its inspiration from nature. It's made of all natural wood, apart from a couple of straps of metal, one there and one there, which were due, they're not there to support it, they're just there to limit the deflection. And then also these tiny straps there that connect the subframe to the balustrade. The reason for those is that the cross-sectional area there is one sheet of larch ply, and therefore it's very efficient use of timber by just having one central one template that can be used and then repeated, and then some of these periphery pieces are taken from the central area. So it's very, very efficient use of engineering. And also you might be able to see the shadows that are cast here. We'll talk a bit about those shadows as we move further up the stairs, but they're particularly purposeful as well. And so we go up the stairs, and as you go up the stairs, you can see the head of the stairs. There are these lights. Now the static images here don't really give it justice, but what happens here is that there's 12 lights on a frame, and what they do is they provide a halo of light, and the intensity of those lights changes on a program throughout the day, so that they cast different shadows. So it is that you have shadows being cast across the space of the balustrades and across the office floor plate, to give that idea of a moving relationship with nature. And we have this sculpture which interlinks the two floors and then spreads up here. Again, very natural, a DNA helix that goes down it's a reverse to the helix of the staircase, and then this hive effect going upstairs. But it's not just there to look nice. This is an acoustic absorber, so it provides an extra degree of calm in the space. And all of this is made from recycled single-use plastic. So it's a very sustainable way of designing, matched with the Bolon flooring, which again is recycled material, which is pretty well indestructible and great for controlling stains. So I'll now hand you over to Jenny, who's going to talk about air and openable windows.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, so in order to reduce discomfort and irritations resulting from indoor pollutants, thereby aiding respiratory, cardiovascular, endocrine, immune and nervous system health, the indoor air quality and the effectiveness of the ventilation systems need to be monitored and recorded. So several professional bodies have produced guidelines on the ventilation of indoor spaces in response to the pandemic. Even before COVID-19, there was a growing recognition of the link between good ventilation and improved health and mental performance. For ventilation to be effective, both the air quality and quantity and patterns of air distribution are important. There are a number of factors that influence the risk of airborne infection. So first of all, the ventilation rate. The British Council for Officers has amended its guidance to increase the amount of fresh air per person from 12 litres per second to 14 litres per second. And this aligns with the best practice provision in BREEAM assessment. With increasing occupancy density, this naturally decreases the amount of air per person, and increasing the airflow will increase energy consumption. So as the occupancy increases, we will be working with our landlords to plan carefully how we will deal with this. Airflow direction. So to be effective, the fresh air needs to reach the breathing zone, and contaminated exhaled air should be extracted as efficiently as possible. Air cleaning technology, such as UV lights, have been discussed in the media, yet tests have indicated that these are seldom effective, and the BCO has recommended a precautionary approach whereby we do not rely on such technology. The central air supply in our building does not include recirculation, and our swirl diffusers are very effective at supplying air into the space through fan coil cool units. So extract at high level effectively leverages the convective flow generated by the heat emitted by people. Air filtration. So the primary air is filtered by the landlord ventilation plant. The filters on the indoor units that recirculate the room to maintain temperature are regularly maintained. The landlord provides annual records of the air handling unit maintenance, including filter replacement, and we submit annual records to the International Wellbuilding Institute. Air quality monitoring. The aware monitoring sensors linked to a live display at reception can continuously monitor and report air quality. So a simple yet smart building element. So with an accessible platform, the local Cundall team can monitor and maintain records of air quality, including volatile organic compounds, ozone, carbon dioxide, particulates, humidity. So if conditions are unacceptable, investigations can be carried out by the Cundall team to review air quality and investigate a cause, such as the main air handling unit filters, incorrect cleaning chemicals, etc. So following investigation, a remedial plan will be put into action. Selection of cleaning projects is key to reducing indoor exposure. So air quality tends to be worse during periods of high traffic or where construction activities are taking place locally. So frequent review of the air quality index enables alerts to be displayed in reception when ambient air quality exceeds a set criteria, such as more than 51 parts per billion ozone or greater than 50 micrograms of PM10, or also if our temperature is above or below 8 degrees Celsius of our set temperature. So the British Council for Offices and the Federation of European Heating, Ventilation and Air Conditioning Associations have advised that good practice is to maintain carbon dioxide levels below 1,000 parts per million. Even before COVID, our open plan areas typically achieve this. Meeting rooms sometimes reach this limit when very full, and we are working with our landlord to address this as we return to using our meeting rooms to full capacity. Relative humidity needs to be between 40% and 60%, as viruses are most likely to survive in relative humidity below 40% or greater than 60. So humidity is a particular challenge for commercial office buildings in Birmingham, which are generally equipped with variable refrigerant flow air conditioning. We are monitoring the humidity levels and finding them to be within the acceptable range. We also have openable windows, and a screen in reception is able to display ambient air quality based on conditions at a nearby monitor. This informs staff if conditions externally are acceptable to open the windows. The nearest data gathering station is located at Aston, approximately 700 metres from the office, and measures particulates, ozone, temperature and humidity. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand you over to Rob, who's going to talk to you about comfort.
Thank you, Jenny. Well, another key element of a well building that helps facilitate a return to the office after lockdown is comfort. Now, comfort comes in many forms. It's thermal comfort, acoustic, olfactory, visual, and ergonomic comfort. And comfort impacts on the wellness of all our systems: immune, nervous, cardiovascular, endocrine, integumentary, which is your skin, digestive, respiratory, muscular, and reproductive systems. Comfort has been shown to correlate very closely with productivity, which hopefully should get the attention of any business leaders on this call. And for more information about productivity mapping, have a look at our YouTube channel. In productivity mapping, we calculate the productivity gain or loss due to the local environment for every workplace in an office. It explains the enormous positive effect that thermal, visual, and acoustic comfort, along with good air quality, can have on our productivity, making these interventions a no-brainer for our finance team too. We'll all be familiar with not feeling too well sometimes due to a headache or backache or any other form of discomfort, which would explain lower productivity. And it makes sense that if you are comfortable, you're going to be more productive. For thermal comfort, the fan coil units and perimeter trench heating can minimize the theoretical percentage people dissatisfied through close control. However, encouraging the use of openable windows post-lockdown, which has the benefits that Jenny referred to, can impact on our thermal comfort. So we've addressed this in two ways. Firstly, by configuring the fan coil unit controls so that the temperature can be adjusted in each individual zone. And secondly, more importantly, through our agile working arrangements. These arrangements allow our people to choose where they sit for their optimal comfort. For example, deciding to sit next to an open window or not. Similarly, Birmingham's fresh air might not be to everyone's taste, so olfactory comfort with openable windows can be managed through agile working. And also air and ozone is extracted from the printing areas to ensure olfactory comfort there. Acoustic comfort, although this is really Andy's field of expertise, acoustic comfort is optimized with sound reducing surfaces, sound barriers, and sound masking from the fan coil units, with lower noise fan coil units integrated above the ceiling rafts in the meeting rooms. But this is being challenged as we return to the office with the explosion of hybrid meetings. There's meetings with a few participants at home and a few participants in the office. We recognize that we need to create more huddle rooms for hybrid meetings, which we're currently planning. Visual comfort is provided by the lighting system, delivering both task lighting and ambient lighting with good glare control. Blinds also enable our people to control glare from outside, and surface reflectivity was selected to control the contrast between the walls and the ceiling to assist with the quality of color rendering. Lighting is zoned and dimmed automatically when daylight allows. The artificial lighting was tested to ensure the right color and intensity was there to support our circadian rhythm. That is our body clock, which is important for mental health and the nervous system. We relamped the older light fittings on the lower floor to get the light color intensity there to optimize it and get it to optimize it for circadian rhythm too. And we positioned the lighting to maximize circadian entrainment, which is the amount of light that enters into your eye when you're sitting at the desk. Now, post-lockdown, post-pandemic, this also gives us the benefit of lighting people very well for video conferencing from the desks, with the lights perfectly positioned for that. Ergonomic comfort has a big impact on our nervous, cardiovascular, skeletal, and muscular systems. During lockdown, some of our people found it difficult to get the required amount of exercise each day, which we're acutely aware of. As is typical in most offices, all workstations have adjustable seats and screen heights, but we've also provided a lot of workspaces that encourage standing. Up to 30% of our people can simultaneously occupy standing workstations, a proportion that so far we have found to be adequate. We encourage movement with the inviting staircase, also secure bike storage in the basement, good shower facilities, and exercise facilities in our wellness room. The key to optimizing ergonomic comfort for all is to enable individual comfort and adjustment, which our agile working policy goes some way to achieving. We can move between workstations to balance ventilation with temperature control, or balance the proximity to cold glazing in winter with access to views and natural light. In terms of mental health, it's particularly relevant during the COVID crisis. Our agile working policy is playing a big part in our evolution as we emerge from lockdown. It aims to help our people achieve a work-life balance while thriving both professionally and personally. We believe agile arrangements will reduce stress and improve mental health. So we've got a good head start, and the design of the workplace is ever changing, but we must continue to adapt again. The inexorable rise of hybrid meetings is the key challenge, I believe. The objective here being to ensure that there are no second-class members, whether they're working from home or in the office. So to do that, we'll introduce more acoustic huddle spaces to optimize hybrid meetings and collaboration with home workers. So far, we've had up to about 30% of our people return to the office on any particular day, perhaps more like 20% on average, and it hasn't really been a requirement yet. But as we see more people return to the office, we really expect we'll need more huddle spaces. We will improve our audiovisual arrangements to support these hybrid meetings because huddle space, acoustics, cameras, microphones, etc. are required, also with seamless IT docking to enable seamless movement between the agile spaces. We've also been putting high power computing facilities in our data center and using virtual desktop interfaces to enable our high-tech staff members to be agile too. This is really important so that we don't have, because in engineering, we have certain members of our teams that use very high power computers, and we don't want them to be excluded from agile working. We're also enlarging our social area and our team building facilities for team days in the office. As we recognize, when people come into the office with their whole team, they might want to do some more socializing as well. While identifying quiet library spaces is needed for those needing to concentrate when somebody's playing on the pinball machine. So we're setting up those spaces too. We still have a long way to go, and we might make some mistakes as we continue to try to innovate. I think now we would like to hear what you think we should be considering and what others should consider. So, Shauna, are we getting any questions in yet?
Yes, we have had some questions through. Thank you, guys. So Rupert Young has asked, perhaps for later in the presentation, how much of wellness is the tenant fit out and how much developers Cat A? Can the panel please comment on what developers should include in their base build, for example, WCs, etc.?
Yes, I'll pick that up. Let me just, I can get a list if you give me a few minutes and get back to you, but Kavita might also be able to jump in. Actually, there's very little that the developer has to do. The developer has to consider the staircase in particular, you know, making sure that, and I'm not just talking about a feature staircase as we've got, just the normal staircase into and out of the building needs to be considered, so it's more inviting to use the staircase than it is to use the lifts to encourage movement of people. There's also an issue that a lot of staircases in the UK haven't traditionally been ventilated, and now with more people using the staircases, you need to consider the air quality in those staircases, and the BCO has introduced guidance that suggests that you should be putting ventilation into your staircases and into your lobby areas. You have to deal with your water quality and your air quality. So on your air handling units, you must make sure that you've got the right level of filtration in them. That's fairly simple to do. And I think it's MERV 13 level of filtration. And make sure you've got the right amount of air going into the space to ensure the wellness of the space. You can improve the air quality more if you supply the air through the floor rather than through the ceiling and allow it to displace up through the space and extract at high level. But of course, that has an impact on the cost of your building, Rupert, because it could potentially increase your floor void size.
It also has an implication on the acoustic comfort as well, because displacement ventilation is very quiet, and in an open plan scenario, everyone would be able to hear everyone else, and you lose privacy and end up having to put speech masking systems back in.
And then there are some minor things you have to do around the front door entrance, for example, having a mat to make sure people get the dirt off their feet before they come into the building. So there are fairly minor things. In my experience, the majority of the impact is on the tenant rather than the landlord.
Yeah, I think one of the other things just to add there as well is maintenance protocol. So perhaps to check the log and how often the ventilation system especially is maintained, and you know whether that can be increased in terms of frequency to align with the well requirements, which is generally quarterly to check the filters are clean and working properly. Also, in terms of one of the points which we didn't target in terms of the platinum is external planting. So, you know, if there's any feasibility of putting more greenery on the building externally as well as internally, that's one we can discuss with the developers. I think one of the benefits of the Birmingham office as well in the building is it had sufficient amount of cyclist amenities, so showers, WCs, and locker facilities. So that's where it's sort of got us just 3 points effectively.
Yeah, we were able to refurbish the landlord's WC areas for our fit outs, so we were able to influence the things like the tap height, the sink types, so we can get the drop that Kavita was referring to earlier, making sure we've got the right kind of soap, making sure there's the option of paper towels as well as hand dryers. So relatively minor things.
Perfect.
And of course, actually, I'll jump in, Rupert. One other thing, really think about your other wellness facilities in terms of cycling facilities, shower facilities, and so on, to encourage people to cycle into the space. Shauna?
Thank you, guys. So the next one is the laser scan to BIM service included in your range of services, and do you do this in-house?
No, it isn't. We, as you can see from the top of the screen here, a company called Scantech Digital who did this for us. This has been done on Matterport. So essentially, what they do is they go through the office and put 3D, 360-degree cameras at various locations, and then it's all stitched together to make a seamless walkthrough. Fantastic technology. We don't provide it, but we know people who do, if you'd like their details.
We have, out of interest's sake, though, been using this during lockdown to help do commissioning of buildings and witness testing in buildings, inspections, where we've had very few people on site, and it could help developers who are remote from their buildings, and also to give you a photographic reference of anything that's above a ceiling before the building all gets sealed up. It can be particularly useful.
Yeah. And the level of detail is very good. It's 4K resolution, so it's possible to see snags on a building, which is really useful technology.
Perfect. So Martin Field has asked, I'm well aware that the International Well Building Institute are exploring well for community and residential. Do you have any experience or update on the well progress in these areas?
Yeah, I can take that question. Both these pilots are now live, and we have experience in both features and concepts.
I'm assuming we can't give too much information away.
We can. I'm happy to take this after the call if you get in touch with me.
Perfect. We have your details, Martin, so Kavita can get in touch and have a further chat. So the next is very impressive. Will you be implementing similar changes to the other offices?
Yeah, I think the so as we've already mentioned, London has Well Gold. We've also designed our Dubai and Qatar offices to the Well Building Standard. As anyone who knows and has arranged an office fit out before will know, some things you're in control of and some things you're not. Our Manchester office is going through a very sort of rapid move at the moment, where they won't be able to implement the full well certification scheme, but they're using it as a guide. Similarly with Dublin, when they moved, to implement something as fundamental as well, you do need the full support of the landlord, and that's pretty key. Hortons were incredibly supportive and sympathetic to us in this and helped us a lot, and that enabled our success. It's not always the case in every office fit out.
Perfect. We still have a little bit more time. So Fabian has asked, did we use a UV lighting system or not?
No, we've not used a UV lighting system, Fabian. It wasn't part of the original fit out. It has been discussed enormously through the whole COVID period. The results in most of the tests have been inconclusive, in that it's all about the dwell time, and if air is passing through ultraviolet light in very short space of time, perhaps in the filters or behind the filters in the air handling units or in the fan cool units, the dwell time isn't really long enough to kill the viruses effectively. So the BCO, British Council for Officers, has taken a precautionary approach and said, don't rely on that. You can't rely on ultraviolet lighting to sterilize your building. There is technology with robotic little robots that can walk around offices with ultraviolet to try and sanitize them or kill the viruses after hours. Again, needs to be very, very, very carefully used, because ultraviolet can be extremely harmful to humans as well. there is that technology, and potentially by using that, you could have longer dwell times for the ultraviolet, which could kill viruses, but we certainly don't think that's appropriate for our office.
It's also very high energy, I think, isn't it, for UVC lamps?
Thank you. So Lee has asked, what impact will COVID and the resulting changes to working practices have on office occupancy levels?
Again, I can pick that one up because, again, there has been quite a lot of discussion about this through the British Council for Offices, with a range of occupancy levels experienced across the country, across the United Kingdom in offices in surveys before COVID. Those densities would range from 1 person to 6 square meters up to 1 person per 12 square meters on average throughout the space. But you did find spaces within certain offices with much higher density, even than one per 6 square meters in particular parts of the building. Certainly during COVID, the advice has been hand space, and obviously keep 2 meters apart from each other, so that's reduced the density enormously. The advice going forward post COVID, assuming that that we're going to come out of this at some point, is that we keep the air quality, or we increase the air quantity to 14 liters per second per person, which in some ways drives the amount of the number of people that you can have in the space anyway, that you're not over occupying the space. But there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no guidance on how densely you can occupy any particular part of the space. So if you crammed your entire office in one room for a meeting, for a briefing or something, there's no law against or guidance against doing that at the moment.
Thank you. So the next one we have here is from Rudy. So is air purging the best solution to maintain air quality for an office unit which does not have openable windows? And what's the recommended frequency of air purging?
Okay, so I can take that one. Yeah, so I think the best thing ideally would be to monitor, so that you can then inform what frequency for air purging and volume change per hour. Anyone's got anything else to add?
Perfect. And I'll just do one more, which is from Martin Field. So well is being moved up the agenda, accelerated by COVID and investor interest with ESG. Do you foresee a UK standard emerging to replace the WELL standard?
I think BRE have already adopted elements of WELL. I think it was a case of if you can't beat them, join them. So that's probably as close as we're going to get to that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think the BCO released, British Council for Offices released a document called Wellness Matters, which analysed various different WELL standards or wellness standards. There's FitWell too, which is another standard.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they analysed the various different standards against each other, including the BREEAM standard, which really isn't a health and well-being standard, it's more an environmental standard. But they analysed various different standards against each other, and then have tried to take out some of those best points to put into the latest BCO guide. So that is perhaps emerging as the standard for the United Kingdom.
Yeah, just also add Greater London authorities as well as local authorities. I think starting from London, where they're looking to include some of the WELL features within, similar to BREEAM, to be implemented on new buildings and any major refurbishment works going forward, but that's still in consultation stage.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I think we'll wrap up there. We do have a couple more questions that we haven't had time to answer, but what we'll do is we'll pull those off and we'll get our speakers to go back to you personally on those and answer those for you. So this session, excuse me, is being recorded. And it will go on YouTube, and we'll send that link round after the session. So if you want to rewatch it or share it with colleagues, then you're more than welcome. Thank you for attending this morning.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.